Ciao.
Celebrate the developer community. I hope that video did a great job of capturing just how deeply we feel about our developer community, and more importantly,
the ad that somebody posted on Twitter today, the Google ad. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's a search engine, so it's the regular Google search thing, right? And they have like a virtual concert and virtual, conference and, canceling wedding and all this stuff, right? As what somebody has typed into the search, or what they're typing into the search thing. But then about halfway through the ad, they start going in and they start taking off things like virtual. And they start taking out things like canceling. And instead of saying canceling wedding, they have planning wedding. And, basically the idea. The COVID-19 vaccine location thing, right? Yeah. And honestly, in a 60-second ad, the only problem that I have with the ad is that it might give people the wrong impression that we're all going back outside tomorrow, because we're not. But obviously the vaccination thing is about turning a corner. And the reason I bring that up with Peter Cohen, tech man about town, how's that one? You like that?
Putting on the ring.
Nice. The reason I bring that up with Peter Cohen is because we are talking today about WWDC, virtual and free once again. And the question once again comes up, is it going to be virtual and free from now on? Can they do some sort of hybrid of the virtual and free and the let's all get together in Cupertino thing? Were you one of the people back in the day who would go to WWDC even though you're not a developer and couldn't stay for the whole thing?
It's funny. I only really went to WWDC later in my tech journalism arc. So
okay.
It was only some of the later conferences that I went to. I was never a hanger on though, because I was on the East Coast. So even getting out to Cupertino was always an effort for me.
Yeah, it was. I was around WWDC, but only in that I lived in San Francisco. So like if I had friends who were in town, I might see them while they were there. One of my favorite places to eat actually in that area, because I was a single guy and didn't have a grocery store near me and didn't know how to cook. I'd go to this restaurant and I would just sort of eavesdrop on developers who were nearby, who were, I want to say it was the year that Jobs announced moving from PowerPC to Intel, and just listening to this guy talking on his phone about how, out of his mind he was going to be with all the changes they had to make and the stuff they had to do.
It's funny because, you get a very different, I think, perspective on the tech industry when you're that centrally located to it.
Yeah.
You know what made a big difference for me with WWDC was alt WWDC. That's when things got interesting.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, for those of you who don't know, alt WWDC is sort of this alternative event that happens in proximity to WWDC, but is WWDC adjacent. It isn't related to the event specifically. It's put on by a completely different group of people. It's very independent. Mm-hmm. It's got a very different vibe going on. But it's done with, the sort of tacit approval and sort of nudging help of Apple to exist, because when WWDC lands in a physical area, the physical area just can't, like one conference area or one campus can't really encompass, all of the sort of humanity
right.
that surrounds this event. And that's what makes virtualizing WWDC, I think last year, such an enormous deal, because WWDC was always very much a physical proximity event, right? It was a big deal to get tickets. It was a big deal to be on the ground.
Yeah.
If you could be there, it was a big deal. But millions of people were locked out of it. Millions of people who have developer credentials were locked out of it because they could never justify flying out to WWDC or even paying for the outrageous ticket to get there. So
right.
I'm very happy with what they did.
The thing that's crazy to me is I remember when WWDC did not sell out. It used to not sell out because I suppose there wasn't the iOS ecosystem and there wasn't developing for the iPad. And also, while the Mac was no longer really in danger of going away, it didn't command anything like the market share that it has now, which still isn't even close to, dominant. It's crazy to me to think about how much that changed, because when you say millions of people were locked out, technically true, but millions of people also didn't want to go. It wasn't like, if the Stones said one more tour and this is it, right? I mean, it was sort of like, it was just like a thing that happened.
The millions of people that I'm talking about are all registered developers. They're all people who have skin in this game.
Sure.
Right?
Oh yeah.
There might
Today,
be people,
yes.
There might be people with complete show credentials like me. I register every year just so I can have the inside scoop on stuff that I want to know about because I'm a nerd. There's a lot of people like me, but there's also a lot of people who sell apps or make a living writing apps for other people that get a lot out of that stuff and never have gotten a chance to get to WWDC. And that's why, like I said, virtualizing it and sort of distributing that much more evenly was great. But I don't think that it replaces a physical event because there are just too many things that happen at a physical event. Just happenstance where you meet this guy who knows this woman who just got venture capital at this company to do this. And it's this innovative thing that you've never heard of before. And it's a contact. And the next thing you know, you wake up in a motel outside of Vegas in a bathtub full of ice, missing a kidney.
All right, so here's my question then. Nothing replaces the, being there physically, except there are some people who can't be there physically or, for whatever reason, that's just not going to be in the cards for them. Do you think we eventually go back to welcome to the 5,000 people who are here with us in San Jose and to the millions of people tuning in from around the world? I mean, can you do both in that way? Because by many accounts, they really seem to have hit a sweet spot last year. And I don't think it was just, people being happy because we got something. I mean, it felt like, as you mentioned, a lot more people were actually able to access the information in ways they hadn't been before. At the same time, you do want the bump into somebody in the hall thing. I mean, do you think we end up with a hybrid, with a combination of both going forward?
Yes. Yeah. No, absolutely. I think one can help the other. Like I said in yesterday's segment, do I think that one thing or another, one app or service from Apple is worth paying for? No, it's the gestalt of the entire experience that's worth paying for. Mm-hmm. Done correctly, and I'm sure Apple has the institutional knowledge and certainly the event management knowledge to pull this off. Both of them will help the other.
Something we haven't really, it doesn't feel like there's been a need to do in quite a while, is looking for hints in the invitations. In the
Kremlinology.
Yes, it's been a while, but I heard somebody say, because of course, sort of in the background of this whole thing is Apple's going to be going into augmented reality at some point. They're probably going to start with a mixed reality headset or a mixed purpose headset coming out maybe next fall or next summer or next fall. So 2022, we're talking about in the summer or the fall of 2022. The album art or the invitation art, whatever you want to say, is the same kind of thing that it's always been, of like somebody is opening a computer and the glow of the computer is shining on the face of the developer. This time, the developer is wearing glasses, and there is the reflection of what is on the screen in the glasses of the person. And I heard somebody say that could be a hint about they're going to announce an AR, VR, something or other SDK this year. And the problem that I have is I want that so bad. I want that with all my heart. I want that to be out there because I want to put on whatever answer to AR or VR Apple has and walk around looking like an idiot, and I don't care because it's something I've wanted for 20 plus years now. Is there anything to that level of criminology as far as you're concerned, or is that just people wanting what they want and seeing what they want to say?
I think it's a little from column A, a little from column B. I think that Apple knows that people are going to pour over every image that they produce for anything with a almost NSA level of deconstruction to understand exactly what the image is. And Apple, more than just about any other company on the planet, tightly controls its public image in every way it can, including the invites to its developer events. So read into the glasses thing, don't read into the glasses thing. From my own perspective, I'm less interested in attaching, an Apple toaster to my face and having it, make love to my eyeballs than I am in Apple branded or Apple embedded designer eyewear. Because I'm in middle age. I've been wearing glasses now for reading and distance both, after having 20/20 vision for most of my life, for most of the past decade. I find glasses inconvenient. I find them irritating. I'm not going to get LASIK surgery to correct, because, my eyesight is just going to continually to degrade as I get older. It makes no sense. Eyewear is the way to go. But this entire industry is ripe for disruption, because there's one company more than any other, a company called Luxottica, that controls the manufacturing and distribution across multiple businesses. And you see little disruptions with companies like Warby Parker popping up here and there, and Zenni Optical and stuff like that. They've moved into it, but there really haven't been a lot of huge innovations in eyewear in a long time. And Google Glass was nowhere near whatever Apple is going to do. I'm very interested in the idea of how Apple can make my eyesight better with a really cool pair of glasses. Not just vision stuff, but embedding information in it that's going to make it a lot more useful to me and a lot more informative to be in the world. That is a cyberpunk fantasy I've had since I was about 15 years old. Having augmented eyewear or eyeballs that could do all that stuff. And I think Apple's going to be the company that's going to do it.